Hey there, fourth grade, Mr. Remedies, back with another rousing reading language arts lesson. Today, we're moving away from our graphic text and we're exploring a very large idea that can be applied to any kind of text. Today, we're talking about author's purpose. Right? You know what's next, guys. Let's move on to some learning goals and success criteria. Let's try to figure out where we're headed with this author's purpose lesson so we know and we can celebrate some success today. All right, guys, today we are learning to infer the author's purpose in writing a text. You know you've got it when you can say a couple of I can statements. Our success criteria today are I can define purpose, I can define persuade, I can define information, I can define entertain, and I can name 5 possible purposes that an author has for writing a text. If you hit those along the way, I would call that very successful. Okay? And we will have hit our learning goals. So let's move on to some of that good vocabulary, and let's see what we need to learn now. So our vocabulary for today, first word, purpose. Okay, that's part of our lesson title. So ding, 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 ding. I think it must be very important. Okay, a purpose is the reason or motivation for doing something. Okay, you have purposes for almost everything. Right. Persuade. Persuade means to convince someone to do or think something. Right. Information is knowledge or facts. And entertain is to keep interested. Right? So keep those vocabulary right up in your big smart brains as we go through this lesson, and I think you'll be spot on for our learning goal today. So let's look at our first example of author's purpose. We're going back to Parrots of Puerto Rico. Right? Think back to one of our IRAs, right? And what was this book about? I bet if you're jogging your memory, you're like, oh yeah, Mr. Remedies, I know what it was about. It was about birds in Puerto Rico. Boom, says it right there on the cover. And you would be correct. That's a very simple answer, but a correct one nonetheless. So let's add some detail and let's really jog our memory. Okay? I think there was some facts about the history of Puerto Rican parrots. I think there was also some information about how settlers and other animals killed the parrots. And I think a large part of it, if my memory serves me correctly, was about how people tried to, not tried, but are trying to protect the parrots. And once we really identify what the book is about, that will help us really understand what the author's purpose is. So then my next question is, guys, yoink, what is the author's purpose? Remember, a purpose is a reason for doing something. So now that I know that the book is about the history of Puerto Rican parrots, how settlers and animals killed the parrots, and how people tried to protect the parrots, I have to use my brain and think that all of that stuff is information. So when I think of information, now I'm going to ask myself again, what's the author's purpose? The author's purpose is to give information about the history of Puerto Rican parrots, to teach people about the importance of protecting wild animals. Right? So once we identify what the book is mostly about and how it made us feel and how we thought about the text, which is stuff we've all covered in previous lessons, then we can infer the author's purpose for the text. All right? So for Parrots over Puerto Rico, the author has 2 purposes: to give information and to teach people, okay? Which, coming from a teacher, is slightly different. All right, let's move on to our second example. We're going to One Hen. We're starting off with two books that are for the birds. Boom, dad joke right there in your earpiece on your screen today. Dad joke. That one's free. So when we think back to One Hen, What was this book about? This was a fantastic book. That man, I learned so much, and I really hope that you guys did too. If you remember, it's about a boy named Kojo and a loan he got to buy a hen. Remember his one brown hen? Right? And he used that hen to do a lot of hard work. So the book is also about the hard work Kojo did to help his family and achieve his dream. Remember, he used that hen and the eggs to feed his family, and then to get more. When he got more eggs, he would sell them, and to buy more chickens, to lay more eggs, to sell them. Right? And all that was hard work, especially for a young man such as Kojo. And what else was this about? If you remember, towards the end of the book, Kojo it becomes the owner and operator of a large farm. So the book then becomes about how big an effect Kojo's farm, which remember he started with alone, had on many people, his family, his workers, the community around them. And you see here also that he has a big effect on a lot of people. So now that I know what the story's about, or I, jogged my memory again, yoink, what did the author write about Kojo? I'm sorry, that should be why. I apologize. Why did the author write about Kojo? Well, when I see that he got a loan and that the hard work Kojo did to help his family achieve his dream, well, that's information. So again, just like the previous book, if I think something's information, I might be, the purpose might be to teach me something, or the author's purpose may be to share that information. Right? When the book talks about effect, I notice that they're trying to convince me to do something, because there's quite a few passages where Kojo encourages his family members and some of his employees to loan other people money like he is loaning him, or he's loaning them. I apologize. So I think that the author's purpose is to give information about how loans help people. There is a lot of misinformation about loans and, the role they play. I think the author's purpose for one hen is to teach people that a little bit of help can make a big difference. Right? That one brown hen turned into a world of difference for Kojo's community. And I think that the author wrote One Hen to persuade people to give loans to people in need. Because that is giving someone a loan, lending them a little pocket change or quite a bit of money is a form of helping them. Okay? So again, what do you guys see about the author's purpose? Boom, you see that the author had 3 purposes for writing this book, not just one single one. And that's all right. It's okay to have multiple purposes for writing a text. And now, let's go to our final example. Yeah, Mr. Remedy's up in his animation game today. So we're going all the way back to Dunderheads. Remember, we read the Dunderheads. Mr. Remedy's was on your computer screens reading this to you all the way back at the beginning of the year, way back in August. So you guys hopefully remember this. So again, what was this book about? If you guys remember, it was about a mean old teacher taking the students' things and calling them names, and not really a positive influence on her students' lives. And it was about a group of students with wonderfully weird talents on a mission to get the things back from her house. And remember how they kind of gathered the gang together and had all their cool talents, and they went over the wall and scaled up the house, and really cool story. So, now my question is, why did the author write the Dunderheads? All right. I can look at my overall idea about what the book's about. A group of students with weird talents kind of put those talents to use, and they go get their things back. Well, while I was reading this I realized that this wasn't a very serious story. Even though I did learn some things from it, that I don't think was what the author really intended. So it wasn't very serious, and it had many jokes in it, and it had some wacky adventures that I thought were really quite entertaining. Ooh, entertaining, meaning it kept me interested. Ooh, vocabulary word right there. So let's ask ourselves what the author's purpose is. The author's purpose is to entertain people. Right? This kept me interested. I couldn't wait to see if they were successful in their mission to retrieve the jeweled cat. And it was to make people laugh. The author wrote this in order for the reader to get a chuckle out of them, in order for the reader to laugh a little bit, and to really have a good time reading this wacky adventure. Right? You guys notice a pattern so far? Pow! Two purposes here. Two purposes here. Because entertain doesn't always mean to make someone laugh. Right? There are times where books entertain us, but they might be serious. And so I think in this example of Dunderheads, it is entertaining because it keeps my interest, and it made me laugh because it was quite humorous. But again, we see that the author has multiple purposes. All right. We've done such an amazing job here. Let's move on to a review. What kind of sweet animation do we have next? Huzzah! Bam! All right, just a nice little zoom out. As a review, authors write books for various reasons, right? The reason an author writes that book is what we call the author's purpose, right? Examples of author's purpose include to teach the reader something, to share information with the reader, to persuade the reader to think a certain way or to do something, to entertain the reader, and to make the reader laugh. And as we've all seen in all three of our examples, authors can have more than one purpose for writing a story, and that's quite all right. Right. So in your independent reading today, guys, please give some consideration to why the author wrote this book. As always, I've been Mr. Remedies. That's never changing. You've been amazing. That's also never changing. And we will see you next time. Auf Wiedersehen.